Films, TV, and other popular culture bring us smatterings of information about deafness and deaf culture. Unfortunately, this information often includes inaccurate portrayals of who deaf people truly are. So, it's no surprise that many of us still have misconceptions about deaf people. Test your knowledge of myths and facts about deaf people in the following true-false quiz. A person can be deaf and still have some hearing. True. Many deaf people have some ability to hear. It really depends on which sound frequencies are most affected by their hearing loss. Typically, they might hear some low-frequency sounds like an airplane passing overhead, or some high-frequency sounds like a phone ringing. With the help of a hearing aid, some deaf people are able to hear more of the sounds in their environment, and some are even able to hear and understand speech. You can expect a deaf person to understand what you say by lip reading you. False. Lip reading is incredibly difficult under any circumstances. Just forget all those movies and TV shows where it looks simple. Actually, only a little more than half of the sounds made in speech provide visible cues on the lips and mouth, and many words such as mommy and Bobby appear the same on the lips. Also, lighting, distance, angle, and context can greatly affect accurate lip reading. Deaf people who sign to communicate can't use speech. False. Deafness is not related to the body's mechanisms for producing speech, but learning speech is easier for those who can hear it. Even so, many deaf people have learned speech and may use it without signs. However, many deaf people sign and speak simultaneously. But many deaf people who are able to speak prefer communicating only in sign language. Other deaf people may produce some sounds, but little understandable speech. Even though many deaf people can't hear the sirens of emergency vehicles, they are still permitted to drive. True. Deaf people have the right to take a driver's test in all 50 states and will receive a driver's license if they pass the same test required for hearing drivers. Since deaf people can't hear the sirens of emergency vehicles, they must be visually alert to their presence. Because of improved soundproofing in vehicles, many hearing drivers also may not hear sirens, especially if they are engaged in conversation or listening to loud music. If two deaf people marry, there is a high probability that they will have deaf children. False. But the answer to this question depends on the genetic makeup of the deaf couple. Most deaf people have hearing parents with no genetic history of hearing loss. However, some families have a dominant genetic factor that passes hearing loss from generation to generation. And that's our cultural moment.